make the leap? Watch today's show and find out. It's all coming up on the Gold Standard Podcast. What is good, everybody? Welcome to another Gold Standard Podcast. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera alongside Johnny Dell from the Johnny Dell's Football Academy. We are here on a beautiful Thursday. Johnny, how you doing?
Doing fantastic. I've been loving getting back into some film and chewing on some new meat that's on the bone. So it's been good. It gets me excited for football again.
Yes, and we need a little excitement as we wait for training camp to begin. We're going to get into Ricky Pearsall. We're going to have some film breakdown because he's obviously very important for the 49ers. But we always ask for your reviews, especially on Apple Pods. We love your reviews. Juice13 left this one a little earlier this month. I'm a diehard Niner fan. I listen to several Niners podcasts. Larry K is my second favorite. Gold Standard is my go-to. Every show is great. Levin is definitely my favorite. Then Michelle, great work. Love what you and what you're doing. In the word of the great Brock Purdy, go Niners. That's a fantastic review, Juice. The problem is you only gave us 2 out of 5 stars. It sounds like you're really happy with what we do, and we love that. Thank you. But please, if you could go in and change it to 5 stars, we would really appreciate it. I think maybe there was a mistake there because it seems like you're happy, but 2 stars hurts.
Yeah. Gotta up the stars game there. You know, we need a little bit more production from the stars.
Please and thank you. We got a super chat right off the bat here from Foot. Thank you so much. Says, I don't know if Ricky is the X factor, but he was to be. I think he's a huge factor, Johnny, because we don't know what this wide receiver core is going to look like, especially early in the year. Brandon Ayuk is going to be injured. Demarcus Robinson, we think, is going to be suspended for the first 3 weeks of the season. Ricky Pearsall is going to have to step up.
Absolutely. And he's going to have to step up in multiple roles because, you know, last year when Ayuk went down, the Chiefs game was a really great example of that, is that you had Debo was trying to go. He gets pneumonia. He's dealing with that. Can't go. So he sits out. Ricky's trying to step into a few of his spots. And then Ayuk goes down with the knee injury. And he's now his plate got extremely loaded. And it really, you know, you saw the struggle that he had, and we'll look at some of that in a minute, of some of the mental side of the game when he was put the load of both the Z and the X receiver, which the 49ers do try and teach everybody everything. But as we'll also see, there's a huge load on their plate when they're trying to learn something, especially for somebody who missed OTAs, missed training camp, missed the first 7 weeks of the year. It was a lot.
Can you just quickly, I don't want to make assumptions. Can you explain the difference between the X and the Z receiver for people that maybe don't know?
Yeah, so your X receiver is what a lot of times is called the split end. Traditionally, if you look back to like 1980s football, when it was very much 2 wide receivers and a tight end, and then 2 running backs. Everybody was running that all the time. The split end was away from the tight end. Tight end is in tight, split end is split out wide. And so it was the end man on the line of scrimmage on either side. Because by the rules, you have to have 3 men on the line of scrimmage. So you have, if the tight end's there, he's in tight, he's going to be on the line. Your Z is going to be off the line. He's going to be on the side of the tight end, off the line. X is going to be on the line, on the other side. The reason why that's a big differentiation or a point is when a receiver's on the line, the DBs can get right up in their face. And that's where they jam guys, they press guys. There's no cushion. They are right there on the line against each other. And so your X receiver a lot of times has to be somebody who can beat press man and win on his side without the benefit of the rub routes that you can do with a tight end on the other side. That's your classic Jerry Rice. That's where Terrell Owens went to after Jerry left. He's your X receiver. That's Randy Moss. That's Larry Fitzgerald. That's your prototypical X receiver. Your Z receiver is on the side of the tight end. He's more of what we used to call possession receiver. He's somebody that you can work with the tight end and running back into 3-player concepts, 3-route concepts. So you get the ability to rub route. He's not going to be on the line pressed against it. So they look for the bigger body guys who can make catches in traffic, like an Anquan Bolden. Anquan Bolden is your classic, like prototypical Z receiver. Debo Samuel, Z receiver. Brandon Ayuk, your X. So like that's the difference in those different positions.
Okay. Most people watching probably know that, but just in case you don't, I don't want to leave anybody behind. Part of what the point of this show is to teach people things. So we appreciate that as you take us to school every week. So let's get into it. Ricky Pearsall, I'm super excited to see him out on the field. I really liked a lot of the things that we saw, particularly at the end of the year last year. The floor is yours. Dive in here. What do we got first from Ricky P?
Well, with Ricky P, first thing we're going to do is I want to give people an understanding of what rookie wide receivers have to get through from the moment they are drafted until their first week. So this is the 49ers wide receiver route tree out of their playbook. This is from the 49ers. This is their 2019 playbook. The routes really haven't changed. They haven't really done anything differently here, but we counted it up before the show because I'd never actually counted all these. This is for those who are just listening. This is the table of contents, and there's 24 pages in the wide receiver route tree, and there's 109 routes. This is how many routes. So when players are coming out of college and they maybe ran 6 or 7 routes in college, which we'll get to that with Jordan Watkins, now all of a sudden that they have extremely deep receiver route trees. And what are these things going to be? You're talking about incredibly detailed things. So like an arrow route, stem in on a slight angle to a depth of 4 to 6 yards, turn over your inside shoulder, sit down and show the quarterback your numbers. And then there's a coverage adjustment versus man coverage, break out and separate. So it sits down versus zone versus man, it's going to run away. An alert to get your eyes to the quarterback if there's pressure on your side. That is one of 109 routes. And that's just the coaching points, okay? And so you have just pages and pages, and some of these will have a normal route from an inside split and then a wide split. So you have a bench route from an inside split, you have a bench route from a wide split. There's different, they are slightly different. You have just route after route of all these things, many of them with coverage adjustments, like the Chevy pivot is going to sit down versus zone, run away versus man. You have the choice routes, which then have multiple options that they can go. Somebody had a little weird typo there. That's a fun little thing in there that they drew the wrong route over it and then didn't erase it, just drew it over again. So I'm sure that was fun to explain, but just so many different things. And so many of these routes have so many similarities. You have the curl through, and then you have the deep through, which looks just like the curl through. And then you have the through, which is way down here, and it looks just like the curl through and the deep through. If I can get to it all the way down here at the bottom of the page of everything.
Crazy. It's not just that there's 109 different routes. It's that there are variations on every single route, different adjustments that you have to make based on coverage, based on what the defense does. So when we talk about it, he's got to learn the route tree. That's something that we hear. I think people think of it as like, okay, well, fly, come back, post, drag. Okay, we got it. There's 5 or 6 there. It's like, no, it's not 5 or 6. It's over 100, at least with the 49ers, as Diego says. And I thought the Cheesecake Factory memory was huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And then on top of that, receivers in college, a lot of times they line up and they're told you have one coach to look at for each position. You know, they're going to have multiple assistants, and they're going to get hand signals on what their route is from the sideline. That's all they have to know. Like they look to the sideline, specifically, like you could see this with Mississippi, where Jordan Watkins was. They'd line up, then they look to the sideline. Each receiver is getting one guy signal their route to him. But then when you get to the NFL and you get to the 49ers, this is what your plays look like. So far right, off FSH, 3 jet, F spin, Y pivot. That is the play here. So what that is you have to the Y receiver side, you have what's called a pivot concept. And that's going to be now a three route combination. So just hearing pivot means that you have the Y pivot is the tight end is going to run a pivot route. Then your outside receiver is going to run a wide and short Dover. And then your inside receiver is going to run a short basic. And so that Y pivot tells all 3 guys what their route is. And you need to know which route yours is based upon the formation and where you are in that formation. So they're used to looking to the sideline and somebody says, here's your route. Now you have to know what your route is based upon one position's route and the whole concept. And so the other side is what's called a spin concept. So you have F spin and Y pivot. Those are the two separate concepts that are in there, and they have to differentiate those, understand what the adjustments are. It's a ton on guys' plate. So I just put that out there because people always say, well, why don't rookie receivers see the field? Why don't they get out there? And you go, there is so much for them to digest. And the details, like getting these details and the footwork down is a lot. And they do put in like some sort of, kind of mnemonic devices. Like Shanahan here has what's called the Omaha route. And then you're going to see down here or more up here, the Nebraska route. And so it's run the Omaha route on a double move. So there's Omaha and Nebraska. That makes sense, right? So you have those things that are tied together. There's Miami and Heat. Those are two routes that are put together. One's a variation on the other. He has little, trigger things like that in there, but it is a huge amount for people to digest.
And think about being Ricky Pearsall, for example, who missed all of the preseason essentially last year because he had a hamstring and a shoulder injury. That's the teaching time. That's the install, right? That is the time when you're supposed to learn all this. When they get into the regular season, they don't have time to teach you everything because they have to game plan specifically for that week's opponent. So it's like you get left in the dust, and there's a lot of stuff that you need to know. So it's a staggering amount. Thank you for that, because I had no idea that it was that voluminous. Is the only word I could think of to describe it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot even for me who's been watching this film, and I've done videos on my members website showing teaching tape on these routes and going through. I mean, it took me probably 2 months just to do that, just to explain everybody. I went through the whiteboard, walked through each and every route, and then had a teach tape on every route. And that's what the receivers are going to get in their iPads, right? Like on their thing. So here we're going to see some of that now on the field with Ricky Pearsall, of why that becomes an issue. So Ricky's right here. He's in the slot, and this is against the Chiefs, and he's running a through route. So what the coaching point off of that playbook. So when I talk about these things, people will say, "Oh, you're just trying to give Brock Purdy an out on that." And I say, no. I'm trying to base everything I can off the playbook. Sometimes it's a little murky exactly what was going on, but a lot of times I can either I've seen it and know, or I can then go back to the playbook and say, I know what we're talking about here.
And really quick, not to interrupt you, but think about, we just talked about all the complicated variations and adjustments that receivers have to make in this offense. Brock also has to know all of those, because he's got to know what a receiver is going to do and where he's going to be and where he needs to throw it. So Brock not only has to know, just all the plays, he's got to know all the adjustments. He's got to know everything that everybody does. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, this when people talk about the separation of the mental game from college to the NFL, and it really truly does go from guys that are working maybe 15 hours a week at their job to guys that are now working 40, 50, 60 hours a week at their job. This is the huge difference. And to kind of answer Baloney Jones' question, it's going to be answered in this play here. Is that, are there route changes and adjustments based on coverage looks? Absolutely. There's a lot of them. That's why, last season, the conversation really kind of heated up about audibles.
Yeah.
And I put it out there on X, and I showed a couple clips a couple snippets from the playbook, and Shanahan said this. He said, we don't really do that because the adjustments are already built in. And because, back in the old days, West Coast, everything was very static. It was like you had the play you ran, and then you would have hand signals that would change one receiver's route based upon a pre-snap look that the quarterback saw if he wanted to make a change. Nowadays, what you have is those adjustments are put on receivers. So they're not making a hand signal and audibles like they used to. One play will look a certain way, and then they have 3 variations that can happen versus different looks. And if they get a look that they don't have a variation for, they've also built in a secondary play to check to. And that's when you hear can, or run it back. That's what you hear on the side over the broadcast. That's what's going on. So here, Ricky Pearsall, this is one of those adjustments. He's running what's called a through route. So this is going to stem up to about 10 yards and then break across the field. But the difference is, against 2 safeties, like we see here, his aiming point is supposed to be for the near safety. And then once he breaks over 8 yards, he then will curl over and run across the field and through the defense. This is why it's called the through route. Now, here's where Ricky didn't understand the full details of everything. He's looking at this and saying, okay, I know I got man coverage across from me. My guy has inside leverage. So he's lined up inside of me and I'm running an inside route. So he says, I got to win inside and then break up and work to space. Because once you break, the coaching point is break to daylight, is work to daylight, wherever there's an opening. So that's where quarterback and receiver have to see this the same way. And this is right before the end of the half. So you're in a 2-minute offense. The Chiefs are bringing some heat here. You have an opportunity for a really big play. But what we're going to see is Ricky first, he stutters and he works inside. He's supposed to be aiming for this near safety. And then he's going to break. Well, what this causes is you're going to see is his aiming points and his track are just off by a few yards. And this is where Brock has talked about this, that he throws to landmarks. So Brock goes to throw to a landmark and Ricky's not there. And so this looks like it's on Brock. I believe I didn't have the shot from the end zone, but where the ball ends up going is Ricky ends up here at the dot, and where Brock is expecting him is much more up here. And so it's one of those plays that everybody watches and they say, okay, this is on the quarterback. The quarterback, he just missed him. But if we look at Brock's in his windup, Ricky hasn't come out of his break yet. So Brock is throwing to a landmark he's expecting his guy to make it to, and he doesn't make it there. Now, this was Ricky's first game that he played in. He hadn't had training camp, hadn't had OTAs. So this is what we're looking at, that, okay, this is a problem of a guy missing time. It's not necessarily a problem of ability. It's not a problem where Brock just can't make this throw. It's an issue that, okay, he's still learning what the playbook is like.
And now is Brock throwing the ball so early because he has to throw with that much anticipation because his arm strength, isn't up to snuff with other people in the league? So is that like, I guess what I'm asking is, like, if it's Josh Allen, can he just wait to see where Pearsall is going to be and then let it rip?
He might, but so much, even with the big arm guys, it's about timing. So you want to hit that back foot and the ball's out. So the longer you're going to hang in there, the more you have chance for sacks, strip sacks, really bad things that happen. The one thing that made Joe Montana and Kurt Warner and Tom Brady so great was that they'd hit that back foot and the ball would be out. Bill Belichick talked about it with Tom Brady, or about Joe Montana, about playing against him. He was like, it was so frustrating. He dropped back and he'd hit that back foot and the ball was out. You couldn't get to him. It was so hard to get there. And you're going to see this with Brock. 1, 2, 3, boom, back foot, one hitch, ball's out. That's what you want to see. You want to see your quarterback working on time. So he's going to be throwing it early and before these breaks. That's on the receivers to get where they need to go. And Josh Allen does this too. He'll drop back and, he'll fling it out there. And if the receiver gets bumped off his route, then, it just kind of falls somewhere where it doesn't look like it's on time, or there's a little bit of confusion. And so, you have those things. So here we're going to see Ricky Pearsall. He's lined up inside. And this is, again, a guy not understanding how things are going to change as the route goes. So we have an opportunity for a huge explosive here. We're going to run a deep clearing route, and then we're going to run Ricky on a crossing route. This is going to be just run right over the defense. So the idea is I believe you run this off play action. You're going to try and clear out the top, and you're going to end up then bring play action and out into the flat. And so you suck somebody up underneath, and you should have a big void in the middle, in the intermediate zone of the defense. Well, Ricky sees, okay, I got a guy over me. This is the guy that's man coverage on me. We're going to bring Ronnie Bell in motion. One guy drops out, one guy drops down. Now he's got to understand we're keeping George Kittle into block. We're trying to create more time for this play action. So George's man isn't going to move. He's going to come back to where he is and squat here. So Ricky's got to adjust his release to go either over the top, or he's got to get underneath. Whatever he's got to do, he's got to get past that George's man on time. It's about being on time. You're going to see here, he then releases straight into the track of George's man.
Of the 3 things he could do, 2 of them were good. He did the one bad one, which is go right into it.
Right. And now you're going to see, pow, now it's broken up. You have this has happened. So the reason I point that out is watch as this develops. You're going to see this clear out. You're going to see this suck under. Brock's going to roll out here, and he's going to look for Ricky. because he's going to expect him over in this area, and he's not going to be there. So now you can see it. Brock's looking. Ricky's not here. He should be right in this spot running, and you have this cleared out. This should be a massive gain right now. You should have Ricky running free into this area. He's going to be able to catch and run up the sideline. We've seen Ayuk do that. We've seen Debo do that. It should be there, but it's not there. So now Brock has to take off. And that's, again, a young receiver not understanding the changes in the defense that he's seeing in front of him, what he's going to have to do to adjust his release. And again, it's his first game. So I'm just pointing these out of like, this is why you don't see rookie receivers getting a whole lot of snaps with Shanahan. He tends to really not trust rookies because they have a lot on their plate. And then we're going to have another example here. Ricky's running another through route, and we're going to, again, try and take the top off here. Debo runs through, and they're showing two safeties here, and they're going to end up dropping one deep, and one's going to sit. And again, the coaching point on this, like I said, that deep through route, he's doing it right here. He's aiming for the near safety. Good. I love that. But he's going to get to the top of the stem here, and he's going to have a choice. Do I either go under for daylight or over for daylight? And you're going to see him and Brock just get uncertain of where they're going to go. Brock's looking down that way. Ricky's turning the corner, and Brock doesn't know. Is he going this way or is he coming under? Because they're supposed to break to daylight. Either one could be open. He's got the safety and a two-way go. You like it, but Brock doesn't trust him to know where he goes. He gets a little indecisive at the top here, and Brock's going to pull it down and then get sacked.
Is there a right answer there? Like, or is it just they just have to decide what they're going to do in that situation, and either one is correct? They just both have to be on the same page.
They both have to be on the same page, and it's going to come down to two. This is on like Leonard Hankerson and the quarterback's coach for them to be on the same page on what they're coaching these guys to do. That's where the cross-coach communication has to happen, because this is a look that the Seahawks would show and run, so they need to be ready for this look. For when this happens, we know this is what we're going to do. We're either going to go under or we're going to go over. And so it's just, them being on the same page. Brock is, I don't know about it. And then, boom, you get a sack. So that's, again, young guy, not certain what he's going to do there, where they are on the details of it. Sorry. I had a little brain fart there. And then we're going to see Ricky here in the slot. He's going to run what's called an attack route. So this is going to go to, the landmark is supposed to be between the hashes at 10 yards. Come down and sit down right here between the hashes at 10 yards. That's what the playbook dictates. Okay. We're going to see Ricky, he starts to break it off at the right point. So again, 10 yards is the 39-yard line. We're going to see that he's going to break it down. He runs a little bit past it. He should be working down to the 39 in between the hashes. That's where Brock's expecting him. He's in his windup to put it right here. And you're going to see that's where the ball goes, but Ricky is off on his landmark. He's a little bit too wide, a little bit too deep. And so the ball's a little short and it's a little bit inside. And so it's almost picked by a receiver or by a safety who's sitting there. Again, that's just the receiver being a little bit off on their details.
And this is game 4 for Ricky Pearsall now against Seattle.
Correct. Okay, so again, he's just drifted too far. He needs to be really at max at the 40. And it's fine to work this a little bit deep, but you got to work down that stem quick. You got to get back to the ball, and it doesn't happen. And again, it's almost picked. And that looks like it's on the quarterback again. It looks like the quarterback makes a bad throw. But that's on Ricky, again, not fully understanding all the details. And then this is another just, brain moment. This was one that became really infamous because after this sequence, Leonard Hankerson was seen on the broadcast absolutely ripping into Ricky Pearsall. The game is close. This is against Miami. It's in the third quarter. You're deep down into the red zone. And like we were talking about, you're allowed to have 3 men on each side of the ball on the line of scrimmage. You have both your guard, your tackle, and your tight end, and Ricky is up on the ball. So now he is the 4th man on the ball. That is an illegal formation. He should be looking down the line and saying, George Kittle is on the line. I have to be off. because we're going to send Debo in motion. But he just stays there. And you're going to see the yellow hanky come out right there, right after the snap, because it's an illegal formation. So 1st and 10, you're moving the ball, you're doing great. Now you have your receiver get an illegal formation penalty because he just doesn't understand all the details. It's a lot to digest. He's trying to do it in real time in the game. And then again here, he's on the line. Again, you have a guard, tackle, and then because of this route, this is what's called an Omaha concept. You're going to have Juwan Jennings has got to be the up man on the outside because he's got to run a quick out. And then Ricky should be off for timing purposes to come up and run a stick route at 5 yards. But Ricky's on the ball. At this point, Juwan Jennings is looking down. He's the last man out. He can't step off here because if he steps off, they're going to get another penalty because he won't be set for the whole time because he knows it's going to be a quick count. So he's like, well, I just got to hope that they don't see that Ricky's on the ball and not get a penalty. And so we snap it and boom, there's the hanky out again. And you get a good play. You're down to the 1 yard line, really. And you get an illegal formation penalty again, all in the same sequence. And it costs the 49ers points and probably the game. And so, you're looking at that this is now a young receiver. There's a lot of mental errors that we were seeing in his rookie year.
And that was so frustrating because it was the 2 penalties. And I'm sitting there like, I get that there's a lot that you need to know, but basic football is knowing how many people can be on the line of scrimmage. Like this is
right.
not, it's not like the rule change and you're all confused. Like that was something that you should be on. And again, that was the Miami game. That was game, I think, what was it? 9 for Ricky Pearsall, something like that. So like, this is not like game 1. That was incredibly frustrating, especially because we're all sitting here saying, why isn't, let's see more Ricky Pearsall. And Kyle Shanahan's probably like, look at this guy. He's driving me nuts.
Exactly. And that's why Shanahan will get, a little spicy in his pressers about that stuff because people are like, why isn't this guy seeing the field? And he's trying not to say, well, because he hasn't understood half the routes, because he doesn't want to tip that to the other team as well. But there usually are reasons, like guys are struggling with things either in, and their coach is like, I've been going over this route tree with them. They still don't have them all. I'm doing flashcards. We don't have all the routes yet. There's all those things that are happening behind the scenes, but we're going to see some of the good from Ricky Pearsall that when the mental side is together, you see why they wanted him in the first round. So we're going to run here. This is his first career touchdown against the Buccaneers. We're going to run a little basic route here from Juice, and then Ricky's on what's called a widened Dover or short Dover, excuse me. So it's an in route breaking at 12 to 14 yards. He's on his landmark. I love this. He's going to widen this a little bit, get the safety moving. Brock's going to look the safety off that way, get him widened, let the inside route come and clear at 10 to 12 yards. And he's going to be at 12 to 14. Great spacing. It's going to be exactly where you want it. And you're going to have Brock's throwing it early. He's throwing with anticipation, what he does so well. He widened the safety, and you're going to get a catch on the run. And then he can use the talents that he has that you can't teach, that speed and burst and acceleration, and beat the safety to the end zone. So when the details are on, when he's on the mental side, he's a really special kid. You're going to see this here. I love the way he runs this route. We're going to run what's called a spacing concepts. You're going to have Juwan Jennings going to run a little over route. Debo runs this route terribly. He's supposed to run this at 8 yards, and he's going to sit down at 4. Now that may be a game plan adjustment, but based on what I know about Debo, I'm not surprised that this isn't the way it should be. Ricky's got to lose 2 steps. So you're going to see him do that, lose 2 steps, and then get out here to 5 yards. That's where his landmark's got to be into the flat. And he's got to lose 2 steps to allow this to create traffic for the guy that's got to cover him. And so he's going to lose 2 steps off of it, hits his landmark, boom, right on it, and then is able to go and get some yards after the catch. Not a lot, but it's just this. It's the simple things that look so simple, but there's a lot of complexity to what they're actually doing. The ability to take that, lose 2 steps, because losing 2 steps is what allows this separation. Most guys will just fly out here and then you don't get that rub action off Debo. And so he's going to lose 2 steps. He's going to get to the flat. And now that's just when you're on the details, it can make it look so much easier. Like sometimes we've talked about the 49ers the last couple of years, like they make it look like it's hard to play football. And then they'll have games where they just make it look like it's really easy to play football. And the difference tends to be when they're on their details, they're on everything about it, and when they're not. And so when you see this kid nail his landmark, so this is near the end of the game, we're running an Omaha concept, which is just a variation on a stick, but he's got an Omaha route, which is an out route at 4 to 6 yards. There's a stick route inside of it. And you're going to see he's going to nail his landmark here. He's at 6 yards right there. Boom. Brock's throwing early. He's going to get it out here. And you're on your landmark. You're where you're supposed to be. And it looks easy. This is the stuff that, you know, for the NFL level, it is pretty easy. These are routine, but this isn't with 2 minutes left in the game. This is a tight game. This is not as easy as it looks. You know, this is pressure moments. To be able to execute in these times with your landmarks is big, and it just makes the game look easy. And now he's here down at the bottom, and I think this was probably the best route he ran all year. This is what's called a widen Skinner. So he's going to widen. He needs to make this look like he's running a go route down the sideline. Get this going, and then he's going to give his defender a little bit something and run a post route. And so you're going to see him run this here. Again, this is a clutch moment in the game. I believe this is 3rd down. You're going to see him work it, get back over the middle, get the first down, and that effectively ended the game.
He had to work through, at the top of that route, the defender was right there, and he had to work through that to catch that pass. I remember that play, and I was excited because of that. Like, hey, this wasn't just like, oh, you know, Kyle got him open. It was like, no, he actually had to work to get open. He did on time, and he caught the ball in a big spot.
Exactly. And you could start seeing that Brock was trusting him a little bit more and trusting him to hit him in those moments. So, and Ayuk's down. So that's the guy you need in those moments is that receiver who can beat that press man coverage away from the tight end. And that's what he did. And that was a moment I think, most excited for him. So then we're going to see him inside, and we're going to run the classic West Coast sprint option. So this is, you know, the catch. The catch was sprint right option. This is sprint left option. So Brock's going to just roll out here. And, Dwight Clark ran the route in the back of the end zone for the catch. But we're going to see it again. I love what Ricky does here. He's going to push his guy into the end zone and then work back down the stem to the goal line. And you're going to see, again, the ability to separate, to turn the hips and separate, and locate the ball. And I believe this was one that they reviewed and they called a touchdown.
Yep.
So love the way he runs this route. Most rookies will get 2 in a hurry. They're going to run to the end line and just run down. He understands I got to push my guy deep and then come back to the ball, make life easier for my quarterback, run him deep, then come back to the ball. I love that. That is, again, being on your details. This
Lions game was really the game where, like, the hype for Ricky Pearsall, for me, I was like, oh my God, like maybe he is something, you know, like it had been enough time. He had the shooting, obviously. This is the second to last game that he played this season. I was like, all right, like this is maybe what we would have gotten if he didn't have all that extra drama to start the year. So this game really is why I'm so excited to see him this season.
Exactly. Because it's like, okay, you can get over the mental hurdle, and now you can just go play and you can let these talents work. Because when he can do that, man, he's got all the talent in the world. We're going to see him make one of the best catches we saw all last year. He's running a deep out here. Now he's just a little bit off on his landmark, but he can make up for it anyways. I love the route. He pushes his guy deep. He's a little bit late to the outside, but because again, Brock's going to throw this with anticipation, but you're going to see him come out here and make a one-handed catch on this that is just remarkable. Again, Brock's throwing that way early. He's expecting him to run down here, and he kind of shorts it a little bit. But I mean, the kid can separate. He's got smooth hips, incredible hands, acceleration and burst. There's a lot to really like about him. The issues last year, oh my goodness, I love that catch. The issues last year were more about understanding the mental side of the game, and it just came from missed time. So when we look at the potential for this season, it's off the charts.
The thing that I like about all this is when we hear that Brock and Ricky are working out together. Like, this is the stuff that they are working on, right? They are working on that timing. They are working on Ricky hitting the landmarks and Brock knowing where he's going to be and when and why. All the little details. This is the stuff that they're working on. It's not just, I don't want to say just, but like, these are the finite details. It's not just, okay, learning how fast Ricky Pearsall runs. So if I throw a go route, I know, where to put the ball. It's all this minutia. And the only way to get better at it is reps. And they didn't get any last year in the preseason. And Ricky missed mini camp. So at least they have those workouts together to get some of those reps in.
Absolutely. And they're going to be looking over this film together, all this stuff from last year, and seeing the looks that they go, okay, we weren't certain on this together. Here's what Brock can say, here's what I'm expecting you to do. Here's exactly where I'm going to put the ball. Those are the things that they can work through, and they have that off season to look over all that stuff and get it and learn it and get it down. So absolutely love and excited for what Ricky can do this next year.
Yes, please, Ricky, please. I really hope that they weren't just, BSing us and that he really is ready to go for training camp. Supposedly he was ready for the last day of minicamp, but whatever. If he was or wasn't, it doesn't really matter now. What matters is get in there in training camp, get those reps in, get in there in the preseason, because I think it does matter. I think you'll see such a better Ricky Pearsall in the regular season if he could get all that time in, and hopefully he does.
And we saw that, and we'll cover this at some point. We saw the problems of just missing time with even somebody who had been on the team for years in Brandon Ayuk. They had issues with timing, with landmarks, all that stuff. So yeah, but I'm excited for what it can be, and also what Jordan Watkins can bring to the team.
Oh, Jordan Watkins. Kyle Shanahan loves to draft him some wide receivers, and I think other than corner, no other position has been drafted as frequently by this regime. And then wide receiver, this wide receiver room is incredibly young. Ayuk is a veteran. Jennings is a veteran. Robinson's in his first season with the Niners, but he's a veteran. But then everything else they're babies. Cowing, Pearsall, Watkins, Isaiah Nayer, who George Kittle was just talking up on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast. They got some babies in that room.
Yeah, it is a youth movement in the receiver room. Definitely. Now, as we've seen, they have a big learning curve, but these guys, they brought in not so much the bruisers that we've seen, like the Deebo Samuel, the Chris Conley, who was a little bit bigger bodied guy. They brought in speed. They brought in guys who can really start stretching the field in different ways. And I like that. And that's what Jordan Watkins really brings. And I forgot to share this screen with you. I'm like,
when's he going to throw it up?
When's he going to put it there? I have it on my end, but nobody else can see that on my end.
I was playing it cool, just so you know.
You were doing great. I was not. So one thing I want to point out here is you're going to see this different between the games that I show is Jordan Watkins is here in the slot, and he's got a black wrap around his leg. He was dealing with a nagging hamstring injury throughout much of the early portion of the season. This is a kid who probably, if he didn't have that hamstring injury, was so explosive in the second half of the season for Mississippi that he probably would have been a 12 or 1,300 yard receiver in college. He ended this year with just shy of 1,000, and he had some monster games in there. And if you look at how the season went, his production of the first 5 games was really low. And you could see it even in this game. This was, I think, the second or third game. I think it was the third game of the year. You can still see a little bit of a hitch in his giddy up. You can see him just a little bit of limp there in his right leg. But this was the first touchdown he had. Now, it doesn't get much easier than this, but I want to show touchdowns because people always get excited about touchdowns. He's going to run a post route here. I do like the release he has on this route. It just doesn't get much easier when you have a bust this bad and you have a guy this wide open. I'm pretty sure either one of us could run out there and at least make a catch.
He runs past the first defender there, and then it's empty in the middle of the field if you're listening.
There was somebody who was supposed to run down the middle of the field with him, and there was obviously a bust. But what I do like is that he recognized the coverage. He's going to see safety, And he understands this is the guy that I got to get around. So he's going to widen his release a little bit to get out here. I like that. That shows some understanding of the nuances. You see him widening his release there, then curling over the top, getting his eyes around to the quarterback. Those are things, even if there's not a bust, those are things that you like to see. It's not a negative. The other thing that you see is too, he's an athlete that you can put in space. So he's here again, got the black wrap around his leg. They don't get what they want down the field. They're just going to check it down to him. Again, they're throwing this -5 yards, and he's going to go and he's going to get nearly a first down. He's going to be able to make the first guy miss mostly, break some yards, and get 8 yards. When you have a receiver that you can check it down to at -5 and get +8, that's always a good thing. That's always a good thing. And so you're adding another guy with some juice to the team. And you're going to see him here. I got to make sure I got all my notes in the correct place.
The thing that Barrows has highlighted with Jordan Watkins is the smoothness in and out of his breaks, the smoothness catching the ball and transitioning from a receiver to a ball carrier. And all that stuff is going to help with yak and stuff like that. So it's interesting to see it on the film and have Barrows note the same thing basically after the minicamp.
Yeah, and I like the way he understands how to run routes. Even though he ran a fairly limited route tree, he understood the nuances of those pretty well. So we're going to see him here. He's faced off man coverage. He's running a basic route. So it's going to come up 10 to 12 yards and cut across the middle of the field. But he knows he's got to win inside. But like we saw with Ricky just won inside right and then took off. He's going to understand I got to widen my guy. I got to stay on my time. I got to stay on my landmark. So you're going to see him here. He's going to work inside. Okay, now he's got inside leverage. Then you're going to see him work back out and attack the outside hip of the guy who's covering him to push him a little bit wider. So now he comes up and he attacks the outside hip. This guy has to retreat instead of just working inside. And so he gets that, and then smoothness across the field in the cut. Again, we're running it at half speed, so you can see the details of it. But we run it at full speed. You're going to see him work it up, stem outside, then boom, across the middle of the field. And they didn't hit him, but he was wide open. And so that's a route he's going to run with the 49ers a lot. We run basic routes all the time. And that is actually the name of the route. People always think I mean just like a simple route, but it's actually called a basic route.
And when you talk about, he's attacking the outside hip and the defender has to respect that, Jordan Watkins ran a 4.37. So, you have to respect everything he does because he is fast. And I keep going back to the comment that Brock made talking about the receivers in one of the press conferences. He said, we got guys that can move. You look at Cowing, you look at Watkins. Pearsall ran a 4.41, I think. Isaiah Nair ran a 4.4 flat at 6'4". They have, Kyle didn't say it, but I think this might be the fastest wide receiver core that they have had, at least the fastest they've had in a few years.
Yeah, the only difference would be, and Kyle answered this as only Kyle does. Well, no, this isn't the fastest wide receiver core we've had because, we had Marquise Goodwin. Well, yeah, when you have one guy who runs like a 4.29, that tends to skew everything. But as far as a collective group, they haven't had as many guys who run sub 4, like 4.42 on this team yet. And we're going to see him at the top where that speed really comes in. So he's up here against that bump press man coverage. Again, he's playing the X up here. Okay. So notice that that they have strong side away. So he's on the line. He's facing that bump press coverage that we talked about at the very beginning of the show. And he's just going to run a go route. And this is where that speed just flies off as he runs right by the corner. And you're going to see, I love it. He then cuts a little bit inside towards the numbers to stack the corner. That's a huge detail. I haven't watched a 49ers receiver have the speed to get up there and then stack the corner since Brandon Ayuk's the only guy I've seen able to do that.
And when you say stack the corner, what do you mean?
So I mean, get on top of them. So that corner has to go through the receiver to get to where the ball is going to be thrown. Guys, I've just watched too many receivers just try and run. And they're like, I'm faster than my guy. I'm going to get down the field. Mike Evans might be the best receiver in the league at stacking corners. When Antonio Brown wasn't crazy, he was incredible at stacking corners. He could just get right past him, and then he understood placement to put himself between the corner and where the ball was going to be thrown. And that makes it so much harder for a corner to defend. So you're going to see it here. The corner's trying to work through him. and he can't. And so he stacked the corner, beat him with speed, stacked him, and then ran away for the bomb, for the touchdown. So that speed up here is just exactly what you want to see. The ability to use it, stack the corner, then take off and finish the play. He brings a ton of speed. And then we're going to see him down here to the bottom. And this is something the 49ers run a lot. He's going to run what's called a post corner. So he's going to run up here, run a post route, run it like he's running a post, and then break to the corner. And again, I love the way he understands the look that he's getting. This is Arkansas. They're going to be in cover 2. You're going to see these safeties drop out. So this safety is dropping out into a deep half. This corner is sitting in what's called a cloud, an underneath zone. So he's going to attack this safety straight on, make this safety square up to him, and then he's going to break away. And so you'll see this. Boom, the safety has to squat, and then he just uses that speed to blow right past the safety. No chance. All the way for a touchdown. Big, deep play. I mean, these are the plays that everybody loves to see watching football. Like, everybody loves a big, deep play like this. This is just the home run hitter. Again, attacks the inside hip of the safety, so the safety has to square up and then use that speed and smoothness to break out and run away. Oh, I love it.
And then we all know, too, you hit a couple of these, and then it affects the defense. It starts to open up things for other guys on the team. So, of course, you're not going to be hitting deep shots, every time you get the ball, but just hitting a couple of those and threatening the defense will open stuff up for everybody else.
Yeah, and we'll see what that does here in a couple plays. I have a great example of that happening, of where you start to see the defense has to respect what he does. And then you're going to see here, he's going to run a deep out route. And like you said, watch the smoothness at which he runs this route. He's just going to run up here, almost no change in speed, runs it, is able to make a catch in traffic and go get more yards. The fact that he doesn't slow down in and out of his breaks, that he is so smooth through there, I love that. And then you have the ability to have him run routes. We've seen him from the outside way out here. We've seen him from the inside. Now they have him in the backfield. So he's going to be out here and he's going to run this same out route. And again, watch the smoothness at which he runs this route. He just is effortless. He's going to get up there and just poop and right out. He understands too. I love the way he understands they're in man coverage. So he's going to run this up here. The safety is on him in man. And watch the way he works this route because they're running interference up here. He's going to wait as he goes until this guy gets worked over the interference. And that's why he's so stinking wide open. We're going to see it. He sees it. Okay, now here's my break because now my guy has to work through traffic. And so he's there.
And there's no way.
And
Yep.
And you see the defender had to work through traffic. He got a little frustrated with his teammate at the end here. I cut it off before that. But he's going, where are you going? And then again, you line him up inside. They're going to motion him out. Let's run this full speed. So they're going to shift him out here. And he's just going to run a little out route. Watch the burst and in and out of his break on this. This is wild. He's going to get up here. Whoo! And then separates. Again, he's able to get that corner into a trail position immediately. So that means the corner is trailing behind him. And then he goes and high points the ball. So that corner has no chance there. I mean, this is winning early. Right here at this point, he's won. He's got separation, corners in a panic, in a trail at the goal line. So now he's in control of the whole rep. Goes and high points the ball. No chance for the corner. Great route. One thing I love too is he brings some physicality. He's here. Now he gets a penalty on this, but I love it. I'll be honest. I love it. He's going to come and deliver a block on a linebacker and watch the block he's going to lay here. Bow.
Ooh. Wow. He cleats him completely, just like kind of a blindside hit, but he puts pop into it.
Yeah, he double Nike'd him for real. That's what my football coach used to always say because you saw both Nikes in the air. But he double Nike'd him. Love the physicality to get in there and do that. We ask that of our receivers all the time. So I love it. I think it's great. And then we're going to line him up here again at tight end, and he's going to get another easy touchdown. But I like the route here. This is a wide and Skinner. This is that same route that Ricky ran on that third down against Tampa Bay. He's going to run that same route. Watch the way he runs the route. He's going to work out here the smoothness and break, and it's wide open, and he gets a touchdown. So, I mean, he's got the explosiveness is there. I mean, this game against Arkansas, he got like 254 yards receiving. It was a monster game. I mean, just monster. And then now you're going to see he's down here at the bottom. Look at the cushion that they're giving him because of those big plays that he's hit. They are now giving him a huge cushion on the outside. They don't want to get meat over the top. Yeah. I mean, that's a big cushion, and they're still retreating. And so now you just get a quick little curl route for a first down. Second and 7, 2nd and 8. You have a quick curl route for a first down. Every offensive coach will take that. If you got a guy who can create that kind of a cushion for that easy of a first down to keep chains moving, and Shanahan who says, well, now I get another chance to run the ball. He's going to be over the moon with it.
And one thing I want to point out too, because you're doing a good job of showing Jordan Watkins, excuse me, in different spots in the backfield at tight end. That's how the 49ers have used him in minicamp. We're hearing that they are doing some of that stuff, not just lining him up out wide or just in the slot, but using him all over the field, which I love. If he's got the ability to do it, go do it, because the more versatility you can bring, the better.
Exactly. And this last one we're going to see. So now they've got a cushion. He's got a deep route here. He can win he can win deep even when that defense is playing with a massive cushion. So he's going to run up here and run a little stutter and go. And this is one of the nastiest routes you're going to see or nastiest wins you're going to see in football. He torches this corner. Whoop. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, man. He ran right past it in the corner, kind of flailed and tried to stop it, and he knew he was cooked, and he just runs right past him.
Yeah. I mean, that is pure speed, smoothness. The guy tries to get his hands on him, can't. I mean, he is beat the defense by 10 yards. So he is an explosive athlete, smooth, brings a ton of speed, and really a guy I think would have been a higher draft pick, again, if it wasn't for that hamstring injury. That really did, no pun intended, hamstring his season. That kept his production down. Plus, Mississippi they had a couple guys. Number 3, I can't remember who it was on the team. He's going to be somebody to watch come down the years. He had a monster year for them. I mean, he was just a beast with them. I watched several of their games, and he was torching everybody too. So I mean, he wasn't on a team that like didn't have other receivers and big time talent there. So he brings a lot to a team, and it's just another weapon, another explosive guy who can create and be a weapon out on the field.
I love it. Quite frankly, I'm excited. I keep telling people wide receiver is the spot to watch on the 49ers. Every preseason game, like all 3 preseason games, even late in the game, because there's so many young wide receivers on the team. One of them is going to have to be in the game catching these passes. So I can't wait to see it. You and I were talking before we press record that there's almost not enough time to get enough reps to see everybody. And we think maybe that's part of the reason why there's 2 joint practices scheduled this year instead of just the 1.
Exactly. They got a lot of guys. I mean, there's even been some good buzz coming about Tariq Owens, who's somebody who many of us kind of forgot about. But he had the fracture in his hand last year, or was it one of the fingers? I can't remember. Comes from a good pedigree. We'll see what he can bring to the table. I think that this has the potential. I'm not saying it is. It does have a potential to be one of the deeper wide receiver rooms the 49ers have had.
And I kind of like that because it's something new for this offense. It's not Kyle Shanahan trying to do the exact same thing he's always done, trying to do the exact same thing he's done, or did in 2019, right? This has to be a new iteration of the 49ers. It's not that team that they used to have anymore. It's got to be something different. And it sounds like they recognize that and they're trying it. We don't know if it's going to work, but at least they're trying it. They're not just saying, no, we're going to go back to what worked in 2019, 6 years ago.
Yeah, and it's not just we're going to let, try and get the ball in Debo's hands at 3 yards and let Debo go do something. It's we're really going to now create more space, because that's been the biggest problem that we saw last year, and even in moments in 2024 is it felt like there wasn't enough space. There's just like things were just too condensed because it was too much about trying to get the ball in Christian McCaffrey's hands and Deebo Samuel's hands at that 5 yards, sometimes George Kittle's hands. And then, when teams would really, really, really condense, then you throw it to Brandon Ayuk because you need to.
Yeah.
This really starts to feel more like, okay, we're really going to then space out the field, really widen those intermediate areas, let Brock do what he does really, really well, which is diagnose things, throw on time, throw into that intermediate area. And then if teams are cheating on that, now you have deep threats, legitimate deep threats. We're not sending Juwan Jennings running seam routes. I'm over that. I'm over seeing Juwan Jennings being the guy that's supposed to push the middle safety deep, and teams just sitting there flat-footed on Juwan Jennings. I love Juwan Jennings, but dude runs like a 4.6 40, right? Like he's not, or 4.65, I think. He's not that deep threat down the middle of the field. So those safeties just kind of sit there. Now, if they do that, you have a Jacob Cowing, you have a Ricky Pearsall, you have a Jordan Watkins, you have a Naylor, right, that can just fly down the middle of the field. And now you are truly stretching those areas, and that should help out your run game more. For a long time, we were run game to help out the pass game. I think we are starting to go more towards now our passing game can help our running game, which is very much needed in this offense.
They are doing the things that you do when you have a quarterback that you believe in, right? All the things you talked about they're playing the Brock strengths. We've got our guy. We know he's going to be the guy for the next 3 years at least. Let's build a team around him that accentuates the things that he does well. And it looks like the 49ers are going to do it. And this 40 days of death it's the longest 40 days of the calendar year. I need to get through it. I need to see this in action. I'm tired of talking about it all the time.
Yeah, I think the longest week for me is when they report to training camp, because it's like they're there, but nothing happens for like 10 days. Like you just have maybe 1 or 2 pressers, but the guys are just like getting into camp. It's like 4 days of internal meetings, and they don't really do anything. You can't see anything. And it feels like they started, but they don't really, because they report like June 23rd, but then we don't actually get any football news until like August 2nd. Like that span is the longest stretch of time for me.
That span. And then after the preseason game, that dead week before the regular season begins, it's such a tease, right? Because we got preseason and we're back. And then you're sitting there and you're like, oh, I hope nobody gets hurt in the preseason. And then you get through all of that and you're like, all right, let's go. And then you have a week of nothing. And you're just like, oh, come on, what a tease.
Absolutely. I hate that tease. Yeah. I mean, Roger Goodell needs to stop being such a tease. I think that may be the first time anybody's ever said that about him in his life, but
hey, he's got his own problems, all the collusion stuff that came out, which shockingly people do not seem to care about enough. That is a huge deal. And I think it's part of the reason, Johnny, why Alfred Collins and pretty much every other second round pick is not signed yet, because the Cleveland Browns, again, gave somebody a fully guaranteed contract, and so did the Texans. And those are the only 2 second-round picks that have signed, because every other second-round pick says, I want a fully guaranteed contract. And nothing infuriates Roger Goodell and the owners more than giving out fully guaranteed contracts. They have fought tooth and nail to not have to do that. And so I think that very much Roger Goodell would like to see these second-round picks not get fully guaranteed deals, because it would essentially be giving something back to the players that the owners have fought in back-to-back CBA negotiations to fight against.
100%. And they really hate giving those guaranteed contracts to rookies. I mean, they fought tooth and nail against that for the first rounders. Like that was their concession for the fact that there being a rookie pay scale. They hate paying rookies, guys who don't have an established marketability that brings more income into the league. They hate paying those guys. They just do.
And we'll see what happens. But I would like to see Alfred Collins get on the damn practice field. Like, he looks huge. He looks awesome, but I need to see you do it. And until he's signed, and, supposedly there's the calf. I don't know how big a deal the calf is. He's got to get signed. I know that much. And we'll see if he ultimately does. That's going to do it for this edition of the show. Thank you, everybody. Like this video. Subscribe to the channel. Make sure you follow Johnny Dell Football Academy on YouTube as well. You can follow both. There's more film breakdown there that, if you want film, that is the spot to go for 49ers film breakdown, in addition to this show, of course. Johnny, thank you so much, man. I had a blast.
Absolutely. Always a fun time here.
You make us better, smarter fans, and we appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.